I got a Pimax Artisan in a deal that made it cost only £225.
120Hz refresh rate, 170 degree FOV.
I used to think I wanted an index, but now, well, I guess I'll just let the video speak for itself.
The day is Saturday, about a month ago. I had just scored myself 2 base stations for cheap and was feeling pretty great.
Nice.
I thought to myself,
Some equipment that I can use for some video.
a listing catches my eye.
Oh, not bad.
I think to myself,
But I think I'll pass. It's not quite low.
10 base stations included, £160 value.
Huh. I already have 2 of those on the way.
AMS audio head strap, £100 value.
Maybe if I...
The cogs were turning, plans unfurling, strategies being devised. If I sold off the base stations that it came with, used the ones that I already had, and then bought 2 Vive controllers, the full kit now fit into the original price. Excitement was awry. For most of the time that I've been a user of VR, I had idolised and longed for higher spec headsets like the Index, but had never quite been able to justify one. You've got to understand, I'm coming from a primarily CV1 and Quest 1 centric VR experience, and only just recently getting the Quest 1 too. I've basically been living in the past of VR technology ever since the day I started using it in 2018, and for me all of a sudden to be shooting past my dream headset for less than half the price? Yeah, it's a big deal. Base stations, better condition than my own ones. Cables, all accounted for and ready. Piss-coloured Velcro cable tie. Interesting. Next up, head strap and accessories. Facial interfaces, rubber cover, nice. Janky audio splitter for use with the Artisan, yeah, but padding. That feels really good, wow. I was quite impressed with what I'd seen so far. It seemed like a far cry from Pimax's earlier endeavours with quality control.
Our table!
Though with that said, main event. Jesus, those lenses are massive. Lenses?
What are you doing?
Literally as wide as my Oculus Quest. It is the same width. Like, that is huge. Safe to say, quite the first impression. And everything that transpired over the last couple of days was starting to catch up to me. There we have it. I have a Pimax in my hands right now. This is ridiculously exciting. I had basically been living the broke VR enthusiast life, and here I am all of a sudden with a higher end headset than I could have ever possibly conceived owning. All that was left now was to put the thing together, fit check it. It is glued to my face, and I was ready to peer into it for the very first time. I am ridiculously excited for this. It was time for my first experience with the high fidelity VR I had been waiting to upgrade to once it finally got cheap enough. Maybe it could even bring back that feeling of putting on a VR headset for the first time again. Well, there was only one way to find out. Closing my eyes, putting the headset on. Whoa, okay, I'm gonna say right away, the IPD slider is well out of whack. But despite that, massive FOV, huge increase in spatial awareness, it blew me away. For the first time in ages, the overcompensating VR legs that have dragged me down for so long buckled just a bit, even if the visuals weren't perfect because of the incorrect IPD setting. It's gonna need a second to find the IPD slider, but yeah, it's one of those moments. Initially, I was absolutely stunned. Being someone whose body seems to be rooted in reality, making it incredibly difficult for me to immerse myself in VR, the huge FOV and high refresh rate was immediately noticeable and was a complete game changer. But I'm having kind of trouble seeing straight in this. I'm struggling to find the IPD that I like. Confusion. I tried to set the IPD correctly. For some reason, the displays inside this headset seemed to be offsetting the image inwards for some reason. That meant that even if the lenses were set correctly, the IPD of the image being displayed would still be off. This made me have to constantly cross my eyes to be able to even focus on anything, like what I'd be doing if I was focusing on something that was right up against my face. As you can imagine, holding a constant cock eye is not a comfortable experience.
First hour, eyes straining, artisan. Bad headset?
No, maybe just one. It's second hand, of course.
Slipped IPD spin maybe. Moving the headset the wrong position to put the image in.
Thankfully, the Python software that the Artisan runs off of has the ability to add your own IPD offsets, so I used that to counter the screwy defaults that my optical nerves were battling against. And it worked. That wasn't enough to end all of my issues, of course. What I was seeing through the Artisan was still just a little bit off and out of focus, no matter what IPD I tried to set it at. This took me a long time to figure out. So long, I almost ended up disassembling the headset because I thought there was something fundamentally wrong or broken with it. But as I went to do that, I bumped the left lens assembly and discovered there was a significant amount of play along its IPD adjustment axis. Lazy lens, never where it was supposed to be. Always dragging behind no matter how it was set. That made for a constantly mismatched IPD. Yuck. One push put the lens in place. Panels aligned, vision finally clear. After one painful, aneurysm-inducing week.
We got there in the end though, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, my first experience with this headset honestly couldn't have been worse. But I did buy this headset used, and to be fair, I probably got what I paid for. This was not, and by any logic could not have been, a standard Pimax experience. I bought the headset second hand. God knows what it's been through. Other reviews don't even seem to mention any of these issues, so make of it as you will, because I'm going to hold my judgment for now. Anyway, those problems, although inconvenient, had been solved, and at long last I was finally able to properly experience the Pimax Artisan and let it really stretch its wings. The partially completed Half-Life Alyx run that I was doing while suffering through these issues suddenly turned into the most immersive and visually stunning experience I've had in VR to date. Looking back, it used to be that I'd play games like this in a much more mechanical and stiff manner, because I could very much feel my presence in the room, if that makes any sense. But with the Artisan, I found myself feeling much more a part of the virtual world I was in, rather than just seeing it through the headset and feeling little else. You know, the feeling of actual immersion. I discovered that spatial awareness is a huge factor in that for me, which the typically more binocular shaped optics of the headsets that I was used to couldn't really fully provide. Funnily enough, an optician's checkup I had some time ago revealed my oddly vivid peripheral vision, and there the Artisan gave me the virtual peripheral vision that no other headset could. Many others that have used a Pimax before will tell you that the increased FOV creates a whole new level of immersion, but for someone like me, it might have actually given me the feeling of true immersion for the first time. And the very noticeable jump to 120Hz displays was just the cherry on top. I did say earlier that I was searching for that same feeling I got when I put a VR headset on for the first time, and it's honestly strange to even think that I might not have properly felt that until now. Crazy, isn't it? Of course, that's an incredibly positive take on my experience of the Artisan, but there's a lot more to it in the fine details. Pimax, wide FOV, lens distortion. A tale as old as time. Pretty much everyone that gets their hands on a headset like this has noticed it and said something similar to the following.
The huge lenses have some noticeable distortion around the very edges, but after a few minutes of playing, I stopped noticing them.
And this was the same for me too. Many compare the undistorted portion of the Pimax's FOV to be about the same size as an Index's full FOV, which brings up the main argument justifying the distortion in the first place. Index: void, emptiness, blank. Pimax: distortion, haze, perception. Many people would rather have some distorted peripheral vision than none at all, because even if it's wonky, it still provides information for you to sense, to actually be able to feel the world you're in. I wouldn't know that difference personally, because I am one of the few dozens of people who have never owned or used an Index before getting a Pimax, but after experiencing it myself and finding that the distortion is even less pronounced to me than I've been led to expect, I do find myself to stand behind that notion. However,
something else nobody noticed.
This graphic here shows what many people would describe as their view through a Pimax with both eyes. And as you can see here, this is generally what the distortion looks like around the edges of the lenses, becoming much more pronounced the more the image is stretched into the peripherals. Take a step back. One eye. Notice this. The distortion actually continues up along the inside of the lens. It's only a minuscule amount as you can see here, but I actually have been able to notice its effect under some circumstances. When looking around a normal room, it's completely invisible. But for objects very close to your face, say fewer than 15 centimeters away, you begin to see a slight bit of chromatic haze around them. The closer the object is, the more pronounced the effect is, simply because your eyes are pointing closer to the distorted area. The severity of its effect could possibly vary depending on your IPD too, but the effect itself is so negligible, the only real reason I ended up noticing it in the first place is because I was paying such close attention to the optics while I was having my initial troubles anyway. Had that not happened,
Nobody noticed.
on top of that, the huge lenses actually afford a lot more binocular overlap than any of the other headsets that I've used, binocular overlap being the shared area of the VR view that both eyes can see. I bring this up because the area that's slightly distorted on the eyes between the Artisan is usually cut off on other headsets anyways, meaning the choice would be between fully cut off portions of close-up objects or very slight chromatic hazing instead.
Void versus distortion. Round 2.
I vote slight unnoticeable distortion. With all of that said, the large optics of the Artisan are much more sensitive to discrepancies in IPD, as I have very painstakingly learned. Usually, if the IPD on my Quest or CV1 was off by a bit, I wouldn't notice nearly as much of a difference as I would with the Artisan. If it wasn't set correctly, everything would still look in focus, but the scale would feel way off, and moving around would make everything feel like it was warping around me. I think this might be an inherent trait of high FOV headsets, for the simple reason that it's much easier to notice the discrepancy over such a wide area. So, if the Quest or CV1 had the same FOV as the Pimax, I think they'd probably face the same issue, and Pimax are making it automatic on the next gen headset because it's such a pain. Though, once it's dialed in, and you don't really have to worry about it afterwards. While we're on the topic of IPD, though there is some evidence on my end to support that my problems were caused by a worn IPD sensor causing the software to misread the position of the lenses, I have seen on some forums that many people actually have to use the IPD offset tool anyway to get a usable experience, and from what I can gather, they buy their headsets brand new. I do feel my take on this could fall into a grey area of validity, because there could be multiple reasons for me having to resort to offsetting the IPD, but it could be that the optics just suit different people better, and that some may need to apply an offset while other people don't for some reason. Either that, or it could be the more grim option, of that not all Pimaxes are built equal. Though, then again, I can't really comment. All I can say is that the build quality and comfort on everything else about the Artisan is really quite good. I'd say it falls just short of the original vibe in that respect.
The body is bulky but sturdy, and the rubberized scratch-resistant coating does its job well. Overall, it feels really nice. My only personal gripe is the chromed out plastic on the buttons. They feel completely fine and tactile, but do bring me back to a dark age of tacky computer cases. Speaking of which, these buttons serve the purpose of controlling the headset volume and powering the headset on and off, of all things. Pimaxes are the only headsets I've known not to incorporate an internal proximity sensor to detect when you're wearing the headset and turn it on automatically.
A bit of a strange departure from literally every other headset that I've used, but it does work all the same in the end, I guess.
Another cool feature of the Artisan is its USB-C ports on the chin and inside of the headset under the facial interface.
They're used for some of Pimax's other accessories, like the hand and eye tracking modules.
But what I'm looking forward to is seeing what kind of things I can jerry-rig to it. Maybe some of my own solutions instead. Anyway, I really like the facial interface design for the Artisan, and I think it suits it really well. The foam is comfy, and the larger forehead portion than most other designs provides a lot of much needed support for the bulky headset. That, coupled with the clamp style head strap, really does make for a balanced and very secure mount while making the headset feel light and maneuverable. I can be really animated and excited while using it and not have to worry too much about it retching away at my face or flying off at any given moment. Though the one thing I do wish was different about the facial interface is its fabric lining, which can absorb sweat and be mildly annoying to clean.
Safe to say this is one of the better mounting solutions out there, and I can see why some people compare it to the likes of the Index and the Vive Pro, which also have amazing head straps. Shame about the built-in audio though. Not only does the Artisan require this oversized adapter here to convert the single audio jack into two separate ones for each ear cup,
which actually caused some quiet buzzing.
The adjustability on these things is absolutely tragic.
You have decent range forward and back, but the height adjustment is tectonically stiff, and there's literally zero adjustment in or out.
It didn't hassle me much, but it was never a great experience getting them into place, and they would never quite sit right on my ears. The audio quality isn't anything to write home about, but the real annoying thing about this built-in audio solution is that even if you want to use your own cans, good luck trying. Because even if you remove the speakers, the head strap itself is pretty awkwardly large and will likely interfere completely with anything larger than some earbuds. For a £100 modular audio head strap, that ain't too great. Anyway, as a last hurrah in the audio department,
let's enjoy the Artisan's microphone here for a bit.
Yeah, not great either, especially since the Index has set the bar with its industry-leading microphone array. It doesn't bother me that much because I have my own alternative methods of getting great quality audio in VR, stay tuned for that, but then again, in a £425 headset brand new, you would expect much better. There was one thing that let this entire setup down though, and it was completely of my doing. It was these godforsaken Vive ones that make me want to crack them over the head of the person who designed them. They are unergonomic, poorly balanced shit sticks with trackpads. Stop! How do you mess it up so bad that it's more comfortable to hold the controller sideways than it is to hold it properly? They were cheap and compatible. That was the only reason I bought them. And now I know why. Literally nobody wants them. I'm definitely being a bit harsh, but that is just the state of the Lighthouse tracked controller market. It's literally just these, or the inordinately expensive index controllers, which still fetch close to their brand new asking price, even second hand. I will 100% be modifying these to see if I can transform them into something more bearable, so keep an eye out for that, maybe even trying to reach feature parity with the index controllers. But overall though, despite my experience being all over the place with this headset, it really has grown on me. Maybe it's because I have yet to experience the greener pastures of the index, but I was basically liberated from that idea as soon as I experienced the 170-degree FOV. Like, I can really feel like I'm there, either hanging out with my friends from across the world in VR chat, or immersively smacking myself in the face as I go to grab another magazine from over my shoulder in Half-Life Alyx. No headset has quite been able to make me feel like that before. Though then again, skipping the index might just be a part of that. Like many others, I think the Artisan, or any other Pimax for that matter, probably isn't for everyone. But for tinkerers and VR enthusiasts that want to graduate from the index while the mainstream headset manufacturers have yet to parallel it, you can't really get more in just one package than with a Pimax. But hang on a second. That's not at all what I did. I didn't upgrade from an index. I didn't pay full price for a Pimax because that would be Not everyone can afford an index, and many question whether it's still worth its full price going into 2022.
So what? If they're too expensive, just buy them used.
Sure, of course, but if we're doing that, it also raises another question. Used index or used Pimax? Unlike the new market where the index, although very costly, is still cheaper than a Pimax, the used market seems to have that completely flipped on its head. A Pimax's obscurity works to its advantage here and makes the headsets cheaper because of the lessened demand. And that there just about tips the scale in Pimax's favour in my opinion. They have quite a few shortcomings and quirks, don't get me wrong, but they're outright higher specs that you quite literally can't get anywhere else for less than an index. Might make for something for you to think about if you're in that situation now. That is if you can find one, of course. I'm not sure I'll be able to put the Artisan into service as my primary headset, at least until I fix the controllers and get a graphics card that can actually run it into my VR setup, but when that day comes, my trusty CV1 that I've had since 2018 will probably be going into its well-deserved retirement. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see this channel soar, and leave a comment down below because I absolutely love talking to you guys. My name's Kai, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.